to qualify for the Olympics. How did you qualify?
Yeah, it seems like such a long time ago now that I qualified for the Olympic Games. We had a grueling selection process back in 2019, which consisted of 3 races. It was your best 2 results of 3 that counted towards your selection. And the third race, which was important for me, was the World Championships. And if you did well, if you excelled at the World Championships, then there were bonus points up for grabs. So the first 2 races I did okay. I had a 2nd and a 3rd place. So in the final race, it was crucial that I finished in the bonus points, which I thought was going to have to be the case anyway, because the 2 other guys that I was competing against were, you know, very capable of also being in that top 5. So I didn't really put too much pressure on myself early on to get an advantage. I thought that it would always come down to the World Championships. And at that World Championships, I finished 4th and the other Brit finished 5th in the world, which allowed me to gain the bonus points that I needed and be selected for Team GB.
Congratulations. And I know that you've already been out to Tokyo a couple of times to see the venue itself. I think you took part in the test event. How is the course? Is it a course that suits you?
Yeah, I've been out there 2 or 3 times now to the Olympic course, and also in the years prior to us getting out to the Tokyo course, I actually went to another prefecture in Japan to go and train with the Japanese team, which was, you know, really, really cool. And you get to learn a little bit about their culture, which is massively respectful. And, you know, I do really enjoy my trips to Japan. So yeah, I've been out to the Olympic course 2 or 3 times now. And yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge at first. As any new venue that you go to, it's water that you've never paddled before. But once I'd spent about a week there, I started getting into it, and now I must have trained for about 8 weeks, or done 8 weeks worth of work on the Olympic course so far, and I would say things are going well at the moment.
Well, we wish you all the best, and we'll talk a bit more about your training and all that entails later. But for those who aren't up on the minutiae of canoe slalom, just tell us exactly what it is you do. Do you kneel? Do you sit down? Is it sprinting? Is it diving across obstacles? What do you actually do?
So canoe slalom is an umbrella term for the sport. Within that, there's kayak slalom, which one person will sit down in their boat with their legs out in front of them, and they'll have a double-bladed paddle. And canoe slalom is when the person also kneels in an enclosed cockpit boat. So it might look like they're sitting with or you might think that they've got their legs out in front of them, but they'll be, if you see that they've got half a paddle or one blade, they'll be kneeling in the boat.
Which did you choose and why?
I always chose kayak slalom. I think off the back of one of my kind of idols doing well at the Olympic Games, that, you know, made it made it an easy decision for myself to pick kayaking. Another Scottish guy, Campbell Walsh, he finished 2nd at the Athens Olympics, and yeah, that was amazing to watch that. And yeah, it made me choose kayak slalom. And
you're the 4th from your club in Alva in Clackmannanshire to go to the Olympics. What makes the Scots particularly good at this particular sport?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, Charles, canoe slalom is a pretty niche sport. It is a small sport, you know, and so clubs around the country, they're few and far between. So the best canoe slalom club at that time was CR Cats Canoe Club, which was through in Clackmannanshire, and so that's quite a long way from the Edinburgh Academy and from Edinburgh. So, you know, every day not every day, on I think Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, I would make my way to Waverley Station, catch the train out to Linlithgow, where I was chauffeured by one of the coaches to to training.
Great. Well, let's talk about the Edinburgh Academy. You're a proud academical. What's your early life? You weren't at the original. You weren't at the prep school. You were somewhere else, and then went on to the academy. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I attended Sheen's Primary School in the Grange before moving on to the Edinburgh Academy for secondary.
And what made you choose the academy in particular?
My mum decided on, or that we should try to get into the academy because she saw that there was a sports scholarship opportunity there, and she thought that it'd be a fantastic thing for me to go and attain something like that. And yeah, thankfully I got into the school on a sports scholarship, and also was awarded a bursary to attend the school. So they really did help me out with fees and a lot of the stuff that comes along with going to a private school.
So other than the canoeing, what sports did you take part in at the academy and do well at?
So at the academy, I played a bit of rugby, probably until I was around 15 or 16. But at that point, my canoeing started to get quite serious. So I was kind of given a pass to not attend rugby training and participate in kind of elite training for canoe slalom. So yeah, I really enjoyed my rugby at the academy. Obviously, it is a massive thing at the academy, the rugby, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed my years playing there. Also at the academy, I participated in the athletics during summer sports, and I captained the ski team for a few years because, as well as my scholarship being for canoe slalom, it was also for ski slalom, which I participated in at that time.
Wow, you're pretty much an all-rounder. That's terrific. And the irony is that the one sport that you've truly excelled at, the academy hasn't got a great reputation of canoe slalom. So how did that happen? I mean, was the school happy for you constantly saying, can I have this time off and that time off? I'm sure that you had to at some point pass an exam or two.
Yeah, I was very much in the mindset of, for me, it was training came first. It was always my dream to go to the Olympic Games from when I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. As soon as I found out that canoe slalom was the Olympics, that was it for me. And school, I think the school did everything they could to support my education, but I was sometimes I was so tired coming into school that I could just barely concentrate in my lessons. But yeah, I really appreciated the academy for being so understanding and letting me pursue what I really wanted to. And at the start, they maybe discouraged it slightly because they were worried about my education, but once they saw that I was taking it extremely serious, they really got behind me and helped me progress there.
And at what stage did you say to yourself, I'm going to really give this a good old kicking, this canoe slalom, and don't forget about university and everything else. This is for me. When did you make that decision? What was the reaction of, mum and school and everybody? Because the tradition is, you go to university, you fill in your rucker form, and you go off to study history at Stirling or somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly on a lot of my friends' minds of where they wanted to go to university, but for me, I wasn't that concerned. I'd already found something that I wanted to do with my life, and I was already on a path to pursuing that. I didn't feel it was necessary for me to go to university and spend more time studying. I thought, what, I really want to give this a good go. And that was probably when I was around 16, 17, when I passed my driving test. Actually, I had a little bit more freedom there, and it was easier for me to get to training.
Mhm.
So yeah, once I passed that, I sat my GCSEs and my AS levels at the academy. But once I had the freedom of being able to pretty much go training whenever I wanted, I think that was the kind of final nail in the coffin for going to school.
Looking back on your years at Henderson Road, what are your memories of life in and out of class?
Oh, probably the little in and out of class, yeah. Probably the little bacon roll shop, actually.
Oh,
I
right.
grew quite fond of the bacon roll shop quite round the corner, just round the corner from school.
Mhm.
That's probably a vivid memory for me, seeing my friends there in the morning and getting, a roll of some sort before heading into school. The walk up to games in the afternoon to go and play rugby, or athletics in the summer. When I was younger, I remember that always being so grueling, having to slog your way up to the pitches. But in the final years, yeah, it was looked upon fondly. And trying to think what else I look back on fondly. Probably more of the arts side of the school. Yeah, definitely art with Mr. Prosser, and design and technology with Miss Hennessy. They were two of, I would say, my favorite teachers in the school, and I feel like they always did their best to look out for me.
By the time you got to 16, 17, you must have been starting to win things. Were you considered a bit of a hero at school, a bit like, people that play in the first 15 or the first 11? Was it, oh, there's Bradley, he's our famous canoe slalomist?
Absolutely not. That was not how it went. That was, what is he doing canoe slalom? Why is he not playing rugby with everyone else?
I can see that, yes.
Yeah, it was, it is such a niche sport, and yeah, it's probably a bit weird to want to do that and participate in a sport like that at the academy. But, I stuck it out, and
Hmm.
I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. And, I was happy to take a little bit of a kicking here and there for doing such a niche sport.
Well, I'm sure that all Accies are very, very proud of you and everybody at Henderson Row, Bradley. What things do you think you've taken from the school that have carried you through life? What life skills or particular things that you picked up you've taken with you?
Um, it's a really difficult one to deal with, not deal with, to answer that. I think the Edinburgh Academy always encouraged quite a high work ethic, and that was something that's definitely stuck with me throughout, whatever I've put my mind to, whether that's, meeting sponsors, being prepared and on time for meetings like that, where you've got to try and, sell yourself to fund potentially the next year of your training. And so, yeah, really high work ethic, very, very good mannerisms with the school. I think a lot of the teachers were quite stern but fair, and just to try and embrace every moment, and especially for a lot of the pupils at the school, just think about the privileged position that you're in and not take anything for granted, really.
So there you are leaving the academy to become a canoe slalom athlete. How did it all start? How did it all work out to begin with?
So as we spoke about earlier, the club in Clackmannanshire, CR Cats, from an early age, they kind of show you what it takes to become an elite level athlete. They have very good coaches at that club, and so already before you're even leaving school, you've got a pretty good idea of what it's going to take for you to progress to that top level. For me, it was about, being really organized with all my training plans, looking at that kind of, even from such an early age, periodization of working out how far you need to start resting before the racing season, etc. And what kind of sacrifices you're going to have to make with your social life, and how many hours per week of training it was going to take. And yeah, it was an incredible amount of training that it was going to take to try and get to such a high level. And so for me, that was, where it came down to, can you even attend school, really? Like, when you're not training, you're meant to be recovering and probably working on some of the other aspects like psychology and and also S&C recovery, physiotherapy. So yeah, there's a huge amount of time needed to be able to become an elite level athlete. But yeah, thankfully, before I left school, I was already supported by UK Sport and lottery funding, because I'd had some good results at junior level. I finished 4th at the Junior World Championships just as I was leaving school. So, I was going to have a little bit of finance there. I had one personal sponsor at the time, and my mum was also doing everything she could to support this crazy dream that I had.
You mentioned your mum a couple of times. I get the impression she's been a very big influence in your life, Bradley.
Yeah, definitely. Before I could drive, she was the one doing all the hours. She was going to work, and then it was such a massive buy-in from her. Like, any parent, I imagine that most parents who have children involved in sport can understand that it's, you can't really take your foot off the gas after work. You don't just go home and cook dinner. You've got to, trail somewhere to pick up your kid from training at God knows what hour, and then try and get them home, try and get them to finish their prep, and for them to have dinner, etc., and then get ready, get into bed so they're not exhausted going to school the next day. So yeah, there was just such a massive buy-in from her, which, as I'm not a parent, I fail to kind of understand what it's like to have that buy-in to someone. But yeah, huge thanks to my mum, because obviously I wouldn't be here where I am today without her supporting me every step.
Now, obviously, as you started becoming more successful, there comes a point when you have to decide, I've got to be the best facilities, the best, medical, the best physical conditions. Where did you presumably had to move from Edinburgh? Where did you move to?
Yes, so there did come a time where, you're endorsed by UK Sport to move to one of their high performance centres. And at that time, the most suitable one for me was going to be in Nottingham at the Whitewater Centre there. So after 2013, where I finished 4th at the Junior Worlds, I tried to move to Nottingham, and I think I was just too young at that point. I moved into a house with people that I didn't really know that well, and I just didn't feel that comfortable. So I actually moved back home after probably about 5 days of living in Nottingham, just because I couldn't handle being away from home at that point.
No, tricky.
So then I spent another year living at home before I moved down to Lee Valley, the Whitewater Centre here in London.
This is where the Olympics were held.
Yes, exactly, where the Olympic Games was held. I moved down here at the end of 2014, when there was more of at that time when I initially moved, there wasn't as big a program set up down here as there is now. Now we have everything on our doorstep. We've got the Whitewater Stadium, we've got physiotherapy support on site, we've got our own gym on site, we've got meeting rooms for going through video, and obviously your coach, who plays a massive role in your career, trying to get you to that start line, on, you know, every big occasion in the best possible position, you know, you've got them here helping you every step of the way as well.
So what's the typical day in the life of you at the moment? So, you know, from getting up in the morning to going to bed at night?
For me, I probably get up around 7 o'clock in the morning, try and fuel the best that I can before the session. You know, there's so many things that come into an elite athlete. Yes, when I was younger, I probably did do all of them, but not to the same extent that you do now. You put so much more preparation and effort into your days. So for me, I get up, yeah, I've probably got about an hour until I need to get to training. So then I'll train from around 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock. And then as we're now in COVID, you'd come home to review your video with your coach. You'd load it up on your laptop, and then you'd have your coach on a Google Meet, because there's obviously still social distancing restrictions between us. We're not allowed to do a lot of the normal things that we would generally have been able to do. So also we've had to adapt massively from, you know, what got me in that best position in 2019. We've had to adapt that program now to fit in with current times. So yeah, I'd come home, try and refuel after my session, and then it would be on to a Zoom call with my coach to review the session. From there, you've probably got about 2 hours where you might fit in a little bit of stretching between sessions. And then from around 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock, you're back at the training center, for another, you know, session of some sort. That might be another session on the water, or that could be a gym session where you're going and doing some Olympic lifting. Then after that, come home, and, you know, my flatmate's also a canoe slalom athlete. So that makes it quite easy for us to get our nutrition right. We'll come home and again refuel after the session, but then get prepared for dinner in the evening so that we're, you know, refueling as we should be to be ready for the next day. So yeah, we currently train Monday to Friday, where we do 2 sessions a day, and then Saturday morning you do 1 session, and then you have Saturday afternoon and Sunday to recover from the week, and then you go again. Wow. On Monday all over again.
Now the big thing at the moment, Bradley, is you're doing all this training, but of course there are no competitions happening at the moment. How frustrating is that, and does that cause a problem when it comes to something like the Olympics? You've no build-up.
Yeah, that was massively frustrating, because at the start of an Olympic cycle, so say we finished in 2016, you start afresh and you put plans in place to kind of progress through the years, building your results up into that Olympic year where you hope to, you know, produce your best performance at that critical time. And so for the Olympic Games to be put on hold last year was very frustrating, because I'd done so much training to get myself in the best position possible to go out there and win the Olympic Games, and for it to be cancelled was, you know, it was tough to take. So since then we've you know, put in place plan B, and we're now going through the motions again of trying to get me to the start line in the best position possible.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing for you that the Olympics has been delayed for a year? Do you feel that you're going to do better, or you're going to be hampered by lack of match practice?
I would say that my best performances generally come out in racing rather than training. So I think by it being put on hold for a year isn't going to do me too much harm. You know, I genuinely did think that I was in the best position I could possibly be at, you know, prior to the Olympic Games being cancelled. But now I also feel like I've had some time to learn and grow and, you know, find out more things that are going to help me as an elite athlete. So I'm pretty certain that come a few months, I'll also be feeling just as confident as I was prior to the games being cancelled.
You had an extraordinary year last year, because not only were the games postponed, but you had a personal, not a tragedy, I'm sure it would be, but involving your father.
Yeah, so I was on a training camp out in Dubai, actually. The timing of, so my father had a stroke early in 2020, and kind of fortunately and unfortunately, we only had one day left out in Dubai, so I was able to get home very quickly to see my father. So it was, yeah, from Heathrow Airport, jump in the car and straight up to Stirling off the flight. So yeah, that was really difficult for me. And after the stroke, he was in hospital for months, and whilst being in hospital, this was when COVID kind of came into more of the public eye within the UK, and he contracted COVID, which was, yeah, also another kind of sting in the tail for him. But really thankful that he's on the road to recovery now, and he's doing incredibly well. So yeah.
Right. And so hopefully that your mind is completely clear. The only thing that's left to worry about, of course, is will the Olympics happen? And there have been conflicting reports on that, but clearly you want it to go ahead, because there's not much chance it will happen in next year, having delayed it already.
Yes, I have heard that if there won't be a further delay to the Olympic Games, it'll either be running or it'll be cancelled. So for me, it's fingers crossed that it's going to go ahead, because this is what I've trained the last 15 years of my life for. So for it to be cancelled would be devastating.
Being immodest for once, and if the Olympics were to be held tomorrow, would I be judicious to put 50p on you getting a gold, silver, or bronze medal? How do you see yourself compared with your other competitors around the world?
I spend a lot of my time analysing the other top guys in the world, trying to figure out what they're doing better than me and what I can do to, make my boat go faster. And canoe slalom is such an on-the-sport day. You can be the best in the world, but still finish outside the medals. So I'll leave that one up to your intuition to decide whether you want to place that 50p bet or not.
Because so much of it is down to the water and an unlucky turn, and you get a penalty, and then suddenly you can presumably drop from first to fifth.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, a slight lapse of concentration. As with ski slalom, you also see, a slight lapse of concentration, and they'll have crashed out, they'll be sliding down the slope. But yeah, for me, if I have a lapse of concentration, I could, I've not fallen in for years now, but I could have to fall in and have to do an Eskimo roll, or generally the biggest thing in canoe slalom with a lapse of concentration is you'd pick up a penalty, which 2 seconds, I think that I have the caliber within the sport to make those 2 seconds back. But if I was to miss one of the gates, then yeah, that's really game over for me.
Thanks very much for talking to us, Bradley, and let's hope we talk to you again after the summer when you've got a shiny gold medal around your neck.
Thanks for the interview, Charles. It's been great talking to you.